So I'm Bill Phillips, and I'm the Commodore of the Corinthians, and we're excited about this fourth seminar. I mean, we're doing so well. I'm very, very pleased. I just wanted to announce and invite all of you to start participating in the Wednesday nights sailing and Wednesday night series that the Corinthians are sponsoring right now. We actually sponsor 5 of the Wednesday night races in a row, and we're on race number 3 tomorrow, May the 4th, and we're looking for people to sign up for the committee boat. Now let me tell you that this is a fun assignment. Basically, you show up for the boat, you get out there, you get to watch all the cool racing. There's a little beer drinking possibly going on, and just a lot of fun and learning a lot about the sailing. As a matter of fact, I was so impressed with what was going to be learned, I talked all of my crew into doing it for the 18th, on May the 18th. So we're all signed up, even my wife. And so I'm going to pass around a sign-in sheet for the Wednesday night committee boat. And sign in if you can do it. I really encourage it. And those of you who are zoomed in, can they just send you a note?
Yes.
Saying that they're interested?
Yeah,
So just send us a note telling us you're interested. Also on the back of this is our sign-in sheet for the seminar tonight. So if you could attend to both of those, thank you very much. And now, without further ado, Skipper?
Bill, is that South Shore?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it's on South Shore Wednesday night, the Wednesday night sale. Yes. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Skipper Chenault. I've been involved with the seminar series, and tonight we're offering something that I think is going to be very interesting. We're doing this week, today, in conjunction with the Cooking on a Boat event that's coming up on May 15th in the morning on the South Shore. The Power Squadron on the South Shore and the Corinthian Sailing Association are promoting this Cooking on a Boat thing, which will be a lot of fun. Guinevere Ray is heading it up, and what the deal is, just basically, is to leave your dock with all your stuff on it to do some form of cooking, go out and sail around or motor around, and then come back at the time that you're supposed to come back, and then whatever you cook will get judged. It's kind of a competition. It sounds like that'll be lots of fun. There's more details about it on the Corinthian Sailing Facebook page. And if you have any questions, send them to us and we'll get you more information. So tonight what we're having is 2 people who've done a lot of cooking, but their cooking that they've done on boats is in completely different perspectives. And I think that what's interesting to me is that everyone ought to find something along this spectrum that should be good for them to do on the boat. Manette Burns is a proud member of the Corinthian Sailing Association, Pontchartrain Yacht Club, the Pensacola Yacht Club, and the Ocean Cruising Club. She and her husband Thomas, who's with us here tonight, own and teach sailing through the Louisiana Sailing School, which is an affiliated school with the American Sailing Association. Manette and Thomas are great resources for us, and we're glad to have them involved in this program and doing other things. Manette grew up cooking in a cooking family. The famous Cajun chef Justin Wilson is one of her uncles. So if you know anything about Justin Wilson, that gives Manette a whole bunch of credibility right there. She puts her cooking skills to use by helping others sail hundreds and even thousands of miles on the ocean and provisioning their boats in advance for doing that. Provisioning is a necessary part for being able to cook once you're miles from the nearest convenience store. Manette and Thomas have, their cruising experience has taken them from Florida to New York, the Bahamas, Croatia, the Canary Islands, Cape Verde Islands, and they recently did a transatlantic trip back to Grenada. But Manette says that she never misses the opportunity for a good cruise along the Gulf Coast, where you will see the most dolphins of any place else that she's ever cruised.
Absolutely.
So next, Albert, who was with us during the last seminar when we talked about the plans for making cruises in general and the trip over to Madisonville, has also got a cooking background, but it's a little bit different. Albert's cooking background is mostly based on his extensive experience cooking outdoors. And he's gotten that through camping, backpacking, canoe camping, cooking on his camper, and cooking on sailboats. Albert is an Eagle Scout, and he's still heavily involved with the Scout program. And an important part of the Scouting program is to teach young adults about outdoor cooking and cleaning. Albert has, he and I have made a couple of boat cruises together, and the meals that we've had, even though based on this simple camping background, have always been outstanding. So now I'm going to turn it over to Manette and Albert so that they can share with you their approaches to the whole cooking thing. Albert and Manette, please.
We're here to try and talk about introduction to cruising, provisioning, meal planning, and thank everybody for being here. Try and keep it going. Have references, you can read those at your leisure on another day. It's not really the important part. So what are our objectives today, Albert? We wanted to try and introduce some concepts and give you some specifics to help you achieve whatever your goals for cruising might be. Because whether you are cruising out just to the middle of the lake for the middle of the day or the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, you're going to want to eat. So,
You know, a big part of what we were talking about is I was watching what Manette was preparing. I never thought about items like, how do we store everything? How do we make sure that things don't have a bunch of roaches in it, such as the boxes? So it's a lot of prep work that we'll be talking about, and proper disposal.
another thing is the concept of resource management. I was sailing with a woman who had been every year sailing on catamarans and on boats, and until we sailed together and we were on a very long passage, she said she really hadn't understood the concept of resource management, that your cruising and provisioning is so centered around resource management. How much electricity do you actually have on the boat? How much do you have in your batteries? How much space do you have in your refrigerator? How much do you have in the freezer? How much space do you have in your boat? How much sunshine is going to shine that day if you need to be charging your batteries by solar? Are you going to need to run a generator? What size water tanks do you have? How much does each person consume in a day, whether it be water or food or potato chips or alcohol?
There's no drinking on alcohol, drinking during sailing, so we don't have to worry about that.
But you got to anchor sometime.
That's true.
Talking about the concepts of crew inclusion in the process. It should never be any one person's job to do everything on a ship. And if it was, it wouldn't be as much fun for everybody else. I mean, it just wouldn't. I mean, I can only sit still for so long, which is not very long. So if I'm on somebody else's boat, I'm going to say, hey, what can I do to help? Right? Especially if you're not drinking, because I can't just say, I'll have another margarita. So let me do something. So we're going to try and talk about a few things that maybe you just hadn't thought about yet. So we talk about how long is your intended trip. I mean, it's something that you need to think about when you are going to decide how much you need.
Yeah, most of the trips that we've been talking about and that we're encouraging people to do are extended weekend voyages where it's potentially 5 or 6 days. So that's going to be a little bit different than as we get into longer planning trips. And that's, again, where we'll divide that up a bit.
So when people ask me a sailing question, more times than not, my answer starts out with, well, that depends.
Yep.
So there's never just a one answer right off the bat, but it depends. And a lot of it is gonna be dependent on the weather. What you're gonna eat, how much you wanna eat, what you're gonna cook for that day, it's gonna depend on the weather. So your menu plans and what you have packed food-wise, you need to have flexibility in that. So keep that in mind as we're kind of going through here. So what will you need if you're going to be going on a cruise and you need to provision? You want to know some knowledge about your crew. You're going to need a meal plan or a menu for each meal, and that's going to include what are you going to have as beverages and what are you going to have as snacks. Because a lot of people, like myself, snack the entire time they sail. And really, if anybody is prone to seasickness, they should snack the entire time that they sail, because that's one of the things that helps ward that off. You're going to need a grocery or provisioning list. You need a plan and a place to store all of that, whether it's dry storage or whether it's cold storage. You need equipment for prepping your food, for cooking your food, for serving your food, and for cleaning up all of that deliciousness. Because after one day, you do not want your tiny galley sink piled to the sky with everything that you've cooked for the day before. You gotta have a way to clean it up. And a plan and a way to dispose of what is no longer needed. Garbage. Anything?
Yeah, so probably the biggest thing is that somebody's got to be the coordinator for it. You know, they've got to have a method of organizing things. You got to get feedback from the people that are going to be on board with you. As you start thinking of the type of things that people like to eat, I believe you got that in there. Is that you know, start getting that feedback from the people. They may have some real specific things that they like to eat. And the thing that I always encourage people to do that are with me, if you go down below during a sailing trip and you're grabbing a snack, go ahead and grab one for everybody. Chances are they're going to eat it. It's the idea that you're already down below, grab some snacks, bring it up on top. Some people aren't going to be real comfortable moving about. They get lazy about just, I'm in my spot, I don't really want to move. They might be getting seasick. Throw them some food, and it does help. Give them something to blow.
You know, talking about a provisioning and coordinator, and it's just a term that I came up with to try and describe what it is. I haven't seen it in a book anywhere.
I like it.
You really need one person that is designated to try and keep it together. So one person that is going to say, I'm making sure that the snack basket is going to be filled every day. And you want to have a snack basket because if you just leave everything out for everybody, then you're going to be 3 hours into a 3-day trip, and you're going to find out that one person has snacked on every bag of potato chips on the boat, and they are all gone. Or you're going to be on a 3-week trip, and you're going to find out that somebody on night watch has eaten the entire bag of chocolate chips that really was meant to make 3 batches of chocolate chip cookies that was going to feed 6 people for 6 of those night watches. Never. So back to our crew, things to consider in addition to the provisioning coordinator is get everyone involved. There are a lot of tasks on the boat. And really, as a provisioning coordinator, you can tell somebody, hey, I need for you to be the person who fills the snacks every day, but this is how much needs to go into the snack basket.
As you think about these provisions, a lot of it depends on how long your trips are going to be. So if you're on these short voyages, you still just want to make sure that you've thought through those baskets. I hadn't thought about the basket idea per day, but it really does work. It is about making sure you've thought through what are we going to eat for this particular day. so that it's always something different.
You know, if you have gotten together and created a menu, and then somebody needs to do the grocery shopping, it doesn't have to be the coordinator. Anybody can do the grocery shopping. Anybody could take the menu and the ingredients and then make the grocery list from it if you've all put that together. We'll have some examples so you can see what I'm talking about with that. Your crew, what do people need? If you have several people on the boat, you really want to know, is one of the people on the boat, do they have celiac disease and are allergic to peanuts? Because before you all leave, even if it's just for, we're going to sail across the lake to New Orleans for the day, what can and can't be on the boat? What should be on the boat? You want everybody to have something that they can eat. You don't want anybody to have problems. So consider sending an email, a text message, a call, however you want to do it, but find out from everybody what are their preferences, what are the kind of things that they like to eat, what do they like to drink or not drink, what is it that you absolutely must have on the boat. I have a friend who must have M&Ms. I have,
Peanut M&Ms.
yes. And I have one who, if they're going on the boat, they want dark chocolate peanut M&Ms. And then there's another guy that I know, he does not sail without the Jelly Bellies, the ones that are the multiple flavors, so that when he sits and does night watch, he can eat them in the dark, one by one, and guess what flavor they are. It makes the night watch go a whole lot faster. So what are the things that there's no way I cannot eat tomato sauce? I mean, you know, you want to know these things. Get these things from them in writing so that the coordinator or whoever has the task can keep track of these things, so when you're making up your menu and provisioning. Got it?
Yes.
You know, you've got it there. Get it in writing so that you can go back and say, no, we asked, you said this.
Yeah, I like what you had said on one of your write-ups, where it doesn't matter what it's written on. You can write on a bar napkin with your name on it, it's good enough. But the idea is to have it in writing. Send an email, send a text, but it really helps whoever's coordinating that to just see all that stuff written and put it together.
Yeah, I'm a visual learner. You can tell me stuff all day long, I'm probably not gonna remember it. If I make a note myself, or if you give it to me in writing, it's like, oh yeah, you said this, and it was on this day, and it was exactly this, and so it just helps. All right, something else to consider. Alcohol. Is your trip or your passage going to include alcohol? Some boats are no alcohol at all. Some of them are no alcohol underway. Some of them are, well, you can have a drink at dinner as long as you don't have your watch within 2 hours.
But when we're going to the islands, Cat Ship, Horn Island, we have to watch those provisions as we're crossing the Mississippi line, so that's real important. That's a joke.
And consider the applicable boating laws regarding the possession and consumption of alcohol on board.
And
And make sure you know what those are, so you do not run afoul of the people that might stop you.
So I assume as you get further south, that becomes a bigger issue. So going to places like, where have y'all run into problems like that?
I haven't been stopped. I don't drink underway.
Okay.
Not until the anchor's down and we have waited until it is set and I'm convinced that we're not moving. So that's just our policy. But it's a really good idea for everybody on the boat to know what the policy is, so that it's one less bone of potential contention. And really, we're not there for contention. We're there for fun. Another thing to consider, what are the resources of your vessel? So on my boat Defiance, if we are going somewhere on Defiance, I don't have a stove, I don't have refrigeration. That means I'm packing some kind of gear like this, an ice box, a 12-volt plug-in refrigeration, something of that nature. But if I am on somebody's big catamaran and I have a 4-burner stove and I have a separate oven and I have a refrigerator with 2 drawers and another refrigerator out in the cockpit and I have an entire front load freezer, I'm in my happy place. But it's gonna make a difference in what you can cook and how you're gonna eat and what you're gonna eat. Now, I'm gonna eat just as well cooking on Defiance with my little, I screw in the burner into my gas burners and throw some ice and some dry ice in the refrigeration as I am on there, but it's gonna make for different considerations. I included a few things in here that you may or may not know about. Solar ovens, Instapots, using the grill on the back rail. If you can, when we are out and it's summer, I don't want to heat up the cabin by cooking indoors, not even on that. So my meals are, we're gonna grill something, we're gonna grill a meat on the grill, and we're gonna grill our vegetables on the grill, and we're gonna have salad, and we're gonna have a fine meal, and I'm gonna set the table in the cockpit, and it might be this big, but we're gonna set the table in the cockpit, and that's what we're gonna have. Induction burners. If you're on a boat, you've got lots of electricity, you can use an induction burner. They cook things like that, but they suck an enormous amount of electricity. Alcohol cooktops and gas cooktops are things that you need to make sure that you are careful when you're using these. Alcohol, those old alcohol stoves, they work, but they're kind of tricky. You need to know what you're doing so you don't start a fire.
Yeah, the idea that you only need like a thimbleful of alcohol to get something started, even that can be too much to light an alcohol stove. You just have to drop a little bit in the reservoir to get it to light. You let it warm up. I've removed my alcohol stove oven out of my system because I don't do enough cruising to justify the space, and now I have refrigeration in its place. And I've gone to a single burner to just really simplify where I cook. And most of that's outside. So we've had a chance to use a couple different boats for our short cruises, and we really try and bring it down a few notches. If I go backpacking, I'm not going to be carrying big stoves anyway, so I know how to use smaller equipment.
Another thing on that is with these gas stoves, you have these big propane bottles that are hooked to the liquid natural gas. That gas is heavy, and it runs like water, and it'll go down into your bilge. So if you are going to be cooking, you want to turn your gas on, light your burner, cook, turn your gas off from the source, be it your solenoid switch or your regulator, and let it burn out of that burner, and then turn your burner off so that you don't have that potential problem. Because I don't know about you, but I don't have a blower in my bilge.
So one of the things that brings up is safety for any kind of butane, propane, is that storage of that is vital. Most of our boats would have a sealed area that should not be allowed to vent into your boat. So your propane, butane should be stored in that locker, and that's where there would be a hose that would be coming into the galley to tie into. There is typically exhaust ports that go through that area that is sealed. It would be a flexible hose that's for venting the companionway or venting your engine compartment. Don't remove that hose because now you're potentially introducing gas that could escape. Skipper's boat has the external box for his butane. It's outside, and it's just got a lid on it, and it's just a single hose that drops down into the stove. So Manette has a picture up here. I've got those things on display on the table. So what's on the screen, there's a portable grill that has two fold-outs that's on the upper part of that screen. And those items just fold up. It's little side trays that just fold back up into the grill. I can either carry a large bottle of butane, or I can carry a few smaller containers, such as what you see. Well, it's actually mounted on the grill in that picture. But these propane bottles, a little easier to store, but you still would want to make sure this goes into a locker, because these things will let off enough gas that if it gets a little pin on it, it will unseat itself and it will escape. So you want to make sure that even these are stored properly. On that same picture, right in front, you'll see that there's another single burner. Again, my background is from camping, so I can use this when I'm just tent camping, real simple process. This one has, that little door is open on my stove, and it shows a butane bottle that's in it. So it'll run on a cartridge like this, or I can hook up a hose to one of these. So it makes for real simple storage. Again, if you don't have the equipment, we want to make sure that everybody realizes that doesn't limit you from still getting out and doing some simple cruising. The other thing that I like to use is in that same picture. It's called a jet boil. So this thing, I carry this backpacking. It breaks down, all of this fits into this container, and it will boil water in about a minute and a half. So I boil that. My primary reason for doing that is I really like fresh coffee, so that's a French press that's in that picture beside the flashlight. So French boil, a French press with a jet boil, and then the other thing you can, there's also an attachment that you can put on top of this to put a small pot. I've cooked on this as well. So these are pretty neat as well.
And I think you said you put that in the sink when you're cooking, so
Yeah,
that
so
it is
this
kept
is small
secure.
enough. I can take this, if it doesn't quite fit in the sink with the stand, I can take the stand off and I can just set this in the sink. This will actually lock onto this. I can't take it off. I have to turn it a quarter turn to get it off of here. So it's stable. I can be boiling water. Then when I'm finished with that, I put my pot in the sink, and it's not going anywhere. But Skipper and I'll knock one of these out pretty quick. But so that's kind of it. The other thing that's in the picture that I use a lot is I'm kind of hooked on DeWalt tools, and I'll bring my power tools as well, drill with some bits and some screws and things like that. But this thing will light up a sailboat. I point that at the ceiling, or I'm trying to find markers, and this thing is real bright. Good news with that is that you can carry a lot of batteries. I used to have a spotlight that I had to plug in on my boat. I don't want to fool with it anymore. This has got me sold. So anyway, that's just some real easy, portable type of gear. It's all a matter of what do you have on your boat, and if you don't have it, you can buy real simple things for it.
So refrigeration, what's on your boat? What do you have? Do you just have an ice chest? Something to consider is even if you throw some dry ice in with your ice to help keep things cold. We actually had our refrigeration went out one year coming back from the Bahamas, and thankfully I knew all the places between here and Florida that sold dry ice. And so we were able to go in and on our way back home, make it back home without things spoiling, so that we didn't have to lose our food and we could continue to cruise and we could continue to eat.
One thing that we found out the hard way, of course, about dry ice is making sure that you've got a layer of protection by your food, buy your cans of beer.
Absolutely.
You know, you've got to have a layer that you are protecting the ice, because it will overfreeze.
Do you have a top-loading fridge or do you have a front-loading fridge? I love a front-loading fridge for the ease of just opening it up and getting everything out. But if you're going to use one of those, you need to try and keep a little ice chest on board that you can take out the day, what you need for that day, throw it in your little ice chest. Because every time you open that door, that cold air just runs out of there. Whereas if you have a top-loading unit, your ice, because cold sinks, is going to remain in there.
The one thing that I did on our top load ice chest is that I'll take it's aluminum jacketed insulation. You use it in attics, cut a piece of that to set on top of all your goods. As that ice starts depleting, it stays flat on top of it, so you're reducing the size of your ice chest. And you end up with a void on top of it. You open the lid, it's not really that cold until you peel that other piece back. So that really helps you conserve the ice as well.
And in your refrigeration, identify where is your cold plate. So what is your coldest places in the refrigerator? What are the warmer or not as cold places? Because you don't want your vegetables and your eggs next to the cold plate, but you might want your beer there. What's your dry storage availability in your boat? When you go to Provision, you're gonna go and you're gonna buy baskets of stuff and you're gonna get to the boat and you're gonna say, where do I put all of this stuff? So figure out, in your galley, I guarantee you, if you're going on a longer trip, you're gonna have more provisions that are gonna fit in your galley space. I don't care how big your galley is. Well, I don't know, maybe a cruise ship, but I'm not going there. So where is your other storage space? Do you have storage in your bilge? Storage in your bilge, because it's below the water line, it's cooler. So beer, wine, if you have prepackaged cheeses that can keep for a long time, store them in those cool spots, because that's gonna keep you going.
Don't forget to get them out of there, though. That's where we store our broccoli, I believe, huh, Skipper?
That, because things like broccoli and cabbage are odoriferous. Wow. So you really want those stored. When we were on a catamaran, we actually had a spot on the outside storage that all of the odoriferous items were stored together and there. Think about, what about your storage under your V-berth? So when we cruised to the Bahamas, storage under the V-berth was our paper towels and our toilet paper, because for the love of Pete, those are so expensive in the Bahamas. It might be $5 for a roll of paper towels. And so as much as we thought we were gonna need, we put them in these enormous Ziploc bags that are this big to make sure that they were gonna stay dry. And we bought lots of chips, because we love chips in the afternoon. But all of those were underneath that storage in the V-berth. There was another storage area that was closer, and we just had how many of these that we need for a few days. Big hint, make a provisions map of the boat with an inventory of the space's contents. You can just draw it out. I don't care if your drawings look just as bad as mine. I can't draw a stick dog. Draw your map and just write down what is in those places, because you're gonna forget. You're gonna forget what's in there, and you don't want 3 years later for you to be digging out something that.
The broccoli.
Exactly. You won't recognize the broccoli after 3 years.
McDonald's on the other hand will be fine.
But the other thing is that if you have a provisions map, then, and you are including your crew in who needs to fill the snack basket, who needs to make sure that the galley contains X number of things that we're gonna use on a daily basis, that person can go and find it. Or if the provisioning coordinator or the cook is sick that day, you don't want everybody starving or not knowing where the toilet paper is, just because they're sick. Some other intangibles. Weigh the most of your time and your provisioning dollars when you are out shopping. And how much time do you want to spend on meal preparation and who is responsible? And how often do you want to dine on shore? And when you're weighing that, it's because dining on shore can be very expensive, whereas if you just are cooking on your own, it costs a whole lot more. I mean, two of us to go out and eat on shore, it might be $80. I can buy a lot of food for $80. I can make a lot of meals for $80.
The thing that we've always considered too, if we're planning to be eating on shore, we still have food sufficient that if we can't go on shore, we want to have a backup plan, something simple that can be cooked on the boat. It may be sandwiches, but you know, you may want a bit more than that. We went into Pass Christian after a hurricane thinking, oh, well, we'll just pull in there, no big deal. We'll go. Well, not only could we not stay because they kicked us out, but everything was so badly damaged from the hurricane, it really wasn't safe to be in there. So you do always need to be planning ahead. That's back to have a backup plan for anything you're doing as well.
But you do want to go on shore and hit a few of the local places and see some of the local color, and meet some of the local people, and maybe even meet some other sailors. I mean, you know, we've made some great lifelong friends just meeting people. It's part of where you go. It's part of where I go. I don't know where you go. Availability of services. What provisioning services are available in your port of call? I mean, when you're here, if you're leaving from here, you know what your places are. So if I'm leaving, if we're gonna go and we're gonna be gone for a while, I know that I can also stretch out my provisioning dollars, because I can buy toilet paper and paper towels 6 months in advance. I can put them on the boat, they're not going bad. But there are certain things that you're gonna have to buy at the last minute, like your broccoli.
Our favorite topic.
When you're in a foreign port of call, you wanna find out how accessible are the services? How are you gonna get to them? Is it someplace you can walk if you just dinghy ashore? Do they have Uber? Do you have to get a local? Are you gonna ride in the back of a pickup truck driven by a man with a parrot on his shoulder in Apalachicola? Some of the places, some of these grocery stores in these ports of call, they will actually deliver. There are some places you can go online and pick out all of your shopping, and if you have spent enough money, they will deliver it to your boat. So you want to keep just some of those things in mind. Places where you can find out that information. You can check online, you can look in cruising guides, you can look on Active Captain, you can listen in on the local cruisers net on VHF radio or on SSB if you've got one and you know how to use it. Think. A few other things if you're going to be in a foreign country and working on that. A translator app on your smartphone, calculator or a calculator app, a phrase book, units table or a conversion app, because you're trying to buy enough flour to make bread for 6 people for a week or two, and you look at the bag and it's in one measurement and you're used to another measurement. Just, you know, things to consider. Amounts per person in how much you need. So drinking water, general, half a gallon per person a day, and average person, 5 gallons per person per day is what you figure for needs. We're talking showers, washing your face, brushing your teeth. You figure that into what tasks that you were doing on the boat, washing the dishes. So how big are your tanks on your boat? Back to resource management.
Probably the hardest part is as you start thinking about that, thinking how long before you can get resupplied. I'm back to, when I go backpacking, I'm not gonna be taking many showers. So I may end up with a pot of boiling water to get a washcloth in with some soap and then rinse off, you know, or taking a Navy shower where you're turning the water off and on as required to minimize the amount of shower time that you're in there. So it's finding ways to conserve the little bit of water. It sounds like we have a lot of water, but it goes quickly.
It does, yes. And so people are either giggling about Albert's predicted and expert opinion that you should plan on 1 case of beer per person per week, or maybe this statistic that I found online, always a great place to look. Until 1970, the British Navy allotted 1/8 of an imperial pint of rum at 95.5 proof or 71 milliliters. That 95 proof was determined by how much gunpowder would still burn in the alcohol that they put in it. That amount equals about 2.4 US ounces. Consider that a shot glass is 1.5 ounce. They really did. Until 1970, they had that. But until the time of the Napoleonic Wars, the ration was 1 gallon of beer per day. The sailors were not happy when this ended, I have to tell you. I wouldn't have been either.
So one of the formulas that I started with a few of these short cruises that we've done for a week, what we found is these simple ratios seem to work pretty well. 1/2 pound of coffee per person per week. Sounds about right. So you're bringing 2 bags of coffee, and I make it strong, so it's always good. About 1 pound of lunch meat per week. But we're buying multiple types, so you get the mix match. But that's back to provisioning. We did have to discuss how many slices you should put on a typical sandwich, because toward the end of a week, you start realizing, well, maybe we can only put 1 slice instead of 4. Little things like that. And then we found that a half pound of cheese is sufficient per person. And then I think Manette added this one. She likes to bring bananas on board. No,
wow.
apples. That's the next slide.
So think about fresh fruit is a great snack for people on board. And you know, all of these idioms that have come around, they're there for a reason. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. And that's just my way of remembering, we gotta have fruit. We like grapes on board. They're easy to just, you know, grab and go. And if they get frozen because they're in the refrigerator too close to the cold plate, they're still awesome. So I'll put a link in here for a sample 3-week menu. So, yeah, you can't see it because it's going to be tiny, but it's pretty extensive.
I think the point is use the tools you have available, whether it's a spreadsheet or an outline list, and just write it all out.
Okay, so this is a screenshot taken from that sample menu. So any of you with the link can click on that spreadsheet so you can see what's in it, so you can get an idea. But just a screenshot was just the breakfast part. Week 1 breakfast, and you can see everything that we had thought about using. So if you have that link, you can click on it, you can see what were the ideas for the 3-week. Sample menu with ingredients, it's another one, I won't open it, but the same concept. But this had the listing, and then you can see next to it, this went on for a while. For every one of the menu items, it was what it took for that across the spreadsheet. So when it comes down to, we need to make the grocery list, the provisioning list, anybody can pick this up and just count. Well, I'm gonna need how many 28-ounce cans of crushed tomatoes for how many dishes that we're doing.
When I looked over the list, what I thought was something I hadn't considered when organizing a list is each one of those columns is a certain type of food. It's cans, it's fresh vegetables, it's fruit. You know, it's by sections that you're probably going to need to go to the grocery store with, or it's the same type of storage that you're going to have to consider when you get on board.
So the screenshot from a sample provisioning list, this was just a sample provisioning list that we used when we had gone to the Bahamas. And so this is a screenshot from that 3rd link. And you can see my categories go across dry goods, dairy, fruit and vegetable, meat, it goes on. I've got paper products, and so you can look at those at home and say, oh wait, yeah, I do need to try and keep track of that.
So here's my simple method of looking through it. So I built a real KISS simple, right? Keep it simple, I'll let you figure the rest of the word. So I just broke it down. I needed 5 breakfasts, 6 lunches, 5 dinners. And then I decided what was my primary course with it. I knew I had to have coffee, breakfast bars, granola, eggs, and sausage. So that was my simpler approach to it. I had more detailed lists that I would break down. What was I going to have on each of the days and how far were we going to be traveling? Should we consider something simpler because it's a long day of travel? Or am I going to get to an early anchorage so that I can spend more time cooking? So my simple dinners have been grilled chicken steak, bratwurst, get a pack of frozen vegetables that you can just do a little stir fry on a skillet. Fresh fish. I really like some of your slides that are coming up. And then in this case, we plan to do 2 restaurants while we were on our trip. And sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't. So we had some frozen dinners. The skillet dinners, I really like the frozen skillet dinners that already has some meat and some pasta and some vegetables all mixed in. You throw that in there, bring a couple of the same, and you just get a bigger stir fry out of it. And then, of course, my preference is we do bring a lot of water, Diet Dr. Pepper, beer, and bourbon, scotch, vodka, whatever people prefer. You do have to watch that first night, though. But anyway, that's a whole other.
And the last night.
And the last night. That's when you're trying to figure out, I only have 2 more beers, Skipper, so we're gonna have to drink this like it's scotch. So we'd open one beer, we would pour in a glass so that we could have a sip together.
So, not everything, you don't have to nerd it out on the spreadsheet. You can make it really simple and still eat. I saw this, and I loved it.
I thought that was yours.
I found this, some sailing people that we watch had posted this, and I was like, I am so stealing that. This is great. The charcuterie board snackle box. Fresh tuna for dinner. Which really was fresh sushi.
Look how red it is.
Yeah, your crew meals can really bring your crew together. If you could just one meal a day that everybody gets together, and it doesn't matter if you're sitting at a dining table or you're sitting at the cockpit table, or if you're just all sitting because the weather is really rough, everybody's eating a one meal bowl out of a bowl that they have to hang on to while your spread straddles, so you're not going to fall over while you're trying to eat. I mean, just one meal a day for everybody to come together is a great idea. This was, you can see there's some sushi in there, but this was a night, it was an eclectic. We had nachos that were loaded to the gills, and sushi. I mean, it's what we wanted.
When we sailed on the tall ship, the Ulster shell that a few of us sailed from Galveston to Pensacola, it ended up getting quite a ways offshore. That it took us a while to realize why all the chairs at these tables had chains attached to the middle of the seat, and it was anchored to the floor. So when you went to sit in your chair, you had to turn it 90 degrees and hop your way around, and everything had placemats. We thought it was so you had nice things. Well, these were skid-proof placemats, so that when you would set your plate off, it would not go across the room. So
Yeah,
And that
skid-proof
was,
placemats are a great idea.
Yeah.
Or if you have plates and you don't want to buy the plates, you can take silicone and run a bead of silicone on the bottoms of your plates, and that keeps them from skidding off. Your cups, your glasses, your pot, whatever, you know. But everyone should eat fruit on board, but there are certain people who are sticklers for no bananas on board. You're like, why? What? Exactly, that's what I always want to know, why.
Banana bread.
So, I'm so glad you asked. As it turns out, when the bananas were being cargoed out of South America to be brought to the old world, they would all be packed into the hold of the ship. And bananas come with two things. One are spiders that can have terrible bites, and in times when you don't have good medical care, can cause really bad issues. And they produce ethylene gas, which is highly flammable, reactive, is dangerous, fire explosive hazard, and you really shouldn't be breathing it. So people would tend to get sick if they had to be the ones to go down and get the bananas out of the hold to bring them up. So hence we don't want bananas on board. Me, I like a banana on board. I like a banana for breakfast really quick before we have to weigh anchor before my real breakfast. It's a bone of contention. Garbage management. Everything you bring on board is going to have to come off of the boat. So, before you leave, get as much off of it as you can. Repack your things into reusable Ziploc bags, reusable containers, and absolutely get your cardboard off. We don't even bring the cardboard onto the boat. We take everything out at dock because cardboard harbors roach eggs and other pests. And once those things get on your boat, they are so hard to get rid of. So just eliminate it to begin with. Along passages, your trash is going to be with you for days. Clean your trash. Use the seawater. Clean out your Ziploc bags. Wash your whatever you had meat stored in. Rinse out your cans. Get rid of all of that so that you don't have that smell.
we were talking about that earlier. They have these perforated laundry bags. Throw all your pots and pans in there, tie a rope onto your cord. Ask me how I know that. Get it over the side, just really douse it out. If it does get a lot of food fragments in there, you take your pots and pans out of there, turn it inside out, dunk it again. You've gotten rid of a lot of the debris that's on your plates. Then we go into cleaning it. We were talking, is that on a later slide, the cleaning of used to?
Later,
Yeah.
Got that one later.
Okay, good.
So in our garbage, just to mention, the MARPOL, which is one of the international laws for international laws at sea, is what you can dispose of and what you can't. Good thing to know. It is illegal for any vessel to dump plastic trash anywhere in the navigable waters of the United States. Many countries are also signed on to this. There are some countries that have signed on to it and they don't pay any attention to it at all, I'm here to tell you. But a violation can result in civil penalties up to $25,000, fines and imprisonment. Nobody wants to go there, don't dump your trash. Under 3 miles, you can't dump anything. Is pretty much what it comes down to. So as I was preparing this, I looked at it and I was like, okay, so you can't get rid of anything, and you can't get rid of your dunnage. So one of my resources was Merriam-Webster's online dictionary. Dunnage is loose material used to support and protect cargo in a ship's hold, also padding in a shipping container, but also baggage. So, no dumping. 3 to 12 miles out, you can throw certain things in if it is ground to less than an inch. So if you want to throw your food over, you have to chop it up first. It does mean though that if you were doing like Albert is saying and you're washing all of your dishes, you're not, you know, you're not messing up.
I don't know, I always eat all my food.
That last piece of bread is to clean that plate.
That's exactly.
12 to 25 miles out, you still can't throw away plastic or dunnage, but you can get rid of your food, your paper, you can get rid of cans. But part of that dunnage is anything that floats. So if you're gonna be miles and miles and miles out and you're gonna put a can overboard, make sure it's not floating. Fill it with seawater. But
Crush
talk
the
to,
cans.
but you know, also be mindful of your crew and who's on the boat. That's another discussion that you wanna have. You know, if you're like, nobody should throw anything over ever,
Right.
then nobody should throw anything over ever. And everybody should be on board with what that practice is.
Yeah, the idea of having aluminum cans and throwing it overboard, knowing that it can't decompose,
Exactly.
just doesn't make sense.
Why would
Crush
you
the
do it?
can and
Right.
rinse it out real good beforehand, and it doesn't take up that much space.
We had a can crusher on our cruising boat, because we knew we were gonna be crushing cans. We just mounted one on the wall, a can crusher on there, took care of everything. Water conservation, because we had talked about you only have a certain amount of water, and so here are just some hints and tricks. We talked about cleaning them in the seawater, using one dish pan for washing and rinsing. You only need about this much water in your dish pan to wash those dishes and about this much to rinse. You know, it's a different concept than when you're sitting at home and your sink's filled like this, or you just run in the water. Pretend like you're in California during a drought. Use a hand pump sprayer for rinsing, the kind that they use for house plants, and I have a picture of it. You pump it up and it becomes super sprayer in a tiny little jet. Great thing. Those same things, if you loosen it up, it sprays out loosely, and so you can use it when you're grilling, because you need a little sprayer, so it's multi-purpose. Put a little water in your cup to brush your teeth. So you brush your teeth, use the water, spit, done. You've used this much water to brush your teeth and not leaving the sink running while you're going and walking around and deciding what you're gonna wear and then coming back.
When I backpack, we don't spit it out. You just wet that toothbrush, and then that makes for a great mouthwash. Go ahead and swallow it.
I'm not sure about fluoride in the gut.
Oh, it's okay, it's good. It's all part of the cleansing process.
Face and body wipes are great things. They actually make biodegradable, you know, wash your face with it. Body wipes that come, just ways to conserve water. This is that little gadget I was telling you about. Water conservation of another sort. Everything that is going through your shower drain, everything that is going through your kitchen sink drain is going into the water. It doesn't do like it does here, where it goes into a system, and then this gets purified, and then it gets percolated. It's all going straight in. So consider using biodegradable products. Well, it looks like we've been running for over an hour now.
That's okay, you're doing good with it.
Well, anybody that needs to leave or check out, I understand.
You can't.
Sorry for us running.
We're right on.
Make sure you have knives. There are only a few that you really need. You don't need 40 knives like you might have when you drive home.
Right.
And the sharper your knife, the less you cry.
Yeah,
You're
thinking-
much more likely to cut yourself using a dull knife than you are a sharp knife. Nobody wants to cut themselves on board. Miscellaneous things to consider that you might been on boats, and when you get these things, you just don't want to. Your corkscrew, number one. Hot
Screw
mitts,
tops.
tongs, cutting boards, the lighters to light your stove, because invariably those electric ones that are on the gas ovens go out. You know, just some things that you want to not forget. Equipment consideration, pots and pans. There are only a few that you really ought to have. 5-quart stock pot, 10-inch frying pan, 2-quart saucepan, and a casserole dish will get you anywhere. Because my up and down won't work. Right. nesting pots take up less space. This is a 10-piece set, the 7-piece set holds just what I talked about, plus a casserole dish. So since space is at a premium, now I'll tell you, I don't have one of these, I love them, but I don't have one, because I have so many pots and pans, I'm not going out and buying something new.
Thing I like about this set is that I can lock that handle and it won't, I'm not fighting with it, I don't have to grab hold of the back end of it. Backpacking stuff again, so it's just real, this is stainless steel, copper cladded bottom, that type of stuff. Save on space.
Press pot for a coffee pot, so you're not having to plug something in, or an old-fashioned percolator pot that you can sit on a stove. I have in here a rectangular pizza stove. If you have an oven in a boat, they are notoriously fickle and they heat unevenly. Put a pizza stone in it, let it live in there. It sends that heat distribution through there. And you can bake biscuits directly on it, you can bake cookies directly on it, but it lives in the oven. We made it to the end.
And you did, well, it's an hour and 15 minutes.
Questions?
Question, what is the fuel in the boiler? I forget which.
It's just a different type of. Yeah,
The
this,
jet
it's specific for jet, it's a higher pressure,
fuel. Okay.
okay, but it's still a butane mix with isobutane and propane. So it's a mix, but Academy. So Academy sells that jet boiler. So I can get you more.
How many pots of coffee is it good for?
That's a good question.
That'll last me the 5-6 days,
Oh, okay.
but I always carry an extra one.
Up on the V berth.
No,
Outside.
No.
in the locker, it's
Outside.
probably under the captain's seat or the helmsman's seat.
So if it blows, you're going.
If it blows, you're gone. You know, that's supposed to have its own vent out the back of the boat. And mine has 2 vents that, there was a blower, I took the blower out. It was meant for the engine compartment, and it has 2 hoses that goes to 2 ports on the back of the boat. That's still sealed, it's still sealed around that locker.
Anything else?
How about online? Anybody have any comments, questions? Sorry for the troubles, as usual, at the beginning of it, but we're getting better at it, so.
There's two thoughts. If you're dependent on ice, freeze water bottles. This helps a lot. And then
That way you can be, as it defrosts, you've got nice cold water.
Yeah.
And you can drink off of it as it is. And don't forget that you can use your engine heat if you're underway, under power. Old army trick, putting sea ration cans and airplane. It's works well.
That's a great idea. So if you run out of this little canister and you still need to make coffee, you can heat that water to,
Yeah, you
and
won't
then
get
pour
out
it
the
into your
boiler,
press pot.
but you're pretty warm. You know, but cans of stuff. Spam.
Yep. Love some Spam. That and a piece of sushi, boy, you got it fixed up. Anybody else?
I just want to say what a wealth of information. I wish I'd known this before we'd gone to the Bahamas instead of now. I mean, there's so much. There was just so much in there. Yeah, really, really good.
Thank you. It was really good.
Can you send the slides via
Can I-
email?
Can I send the slides?
It actually was sent out.
Okay.
Yeah, we sent it in PDF
Oh,
format.
okay.
So if you resend it to me, I'll go ahead and repost the actual link so that people can click on the links inside.
Okay. Oh, yes, that, I can do that.
And that has the link to your menu planning?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how about a little applause for it?
Thanks for hanging in there.
All right, thank y'all.
Did everybody sign in?